Hello, folks. Another episode of Analyst Cam, and it's a real pleasure to have Jean de Villiers. I think I'm murdering his name, but I'll let him introduce himself from Unit4. Jean, thank you for taking the time. Introduce yourself, introduce your role, and as I mentioned to you, we have a thread this year on application modernization and migration. So I'm really pleased to hear you're going to talk about Success4U, your program to take your customers to the cloud, how you mitigate the risks and so on. So please introduce yourself.
Thanks so much for having me, Vinnie. It's fantastic to be here with you. My name is Jean de Villiers in English. I am the Chief Customer Officer at Unit4. And what we're really trying to do is revolutionize the way we take our customers to the cloud, but also the way we onboard new customers to our platform. So this is, we call this Success4U, and that's what we'll talk about today.
Looking forward to it. Okay, go ahead and share, and I'll edit this piece out.
Sure thing. All right, let me know when you're ready, Vinnie.
Ready, go ahead.
All right, so diving in, Vinnie, Success4U is essentially a one-stop shop to get access to everything we do. One of the things that our customers have been saying to us over the last number of years, and one of the things that we see happening in the industry, particularly around enterprise resource planning, is it's complex to do these pieces of work. It's complex to onboard to ERP platforms. It's complex to engage with vendors and their partners to get onboarded. And what we really are trying to do is completely simplify the process, doing away with statements of work, doing away with difficult projects that run for 18 months and don't yield the value that everyone wants. And in fact, when you look at the stats across the industry, that is a common challenge for CFOs and CIOs that launch ERP projects. It is career limiting if they get it wrong. And so this is something we've been super conscious of and something we're really trying to change. So how does it work?
John, the other thing that hasn't changed, it's a shame, because I come from that world, I come from the price warehouse world.
Yeah.
Integrators are still so labor dependent, right? After having thousands of projects, they haven't automated much of what they do. So, it just adds to the expense and risk in projects.
Absolutely right, Vinnie. Absolutely right. And in fact, if you look at the average across the industry for an ERP program, it's typically 18 months. And they're often waterfall based, and they're often time and materials oriented. So you've got this nasty statement of work that doesn't necessarily reflect what, the entire sales cycle, what the customer is being sold on, and what they really want to achieve out of this. That data is not necessarily being captured and then shared with delivery teams. And then the delivery teams essentially coming in and saying, all right, great, what do you want? Let's do a design workshop. And we're really frustrated by that cycle. We don't think it's right. We feel that you should be on board on your ERP platform in 90 to 120 days. And the only reason you would go to 4 months is essentially because you have an extended testing cycle for whatever reason. If you're in a highly regulated industry or something along those lines, that would drive it. So for us, it's all about trying to simplify, standardize, and automate so that we can get you on board quickly, to real value quickly, and then start a journey of how you further adopt and expand your footprint on the platform. And that's really what's driving a lot of the thinking behind Success4U.
Excellent.
So diving into some of the detail, just to give you some context. So what we've put together is essentially a wrapper that gives you access to everything we do from a service portfolio perspective, with what we call expert guidance through our customer success management team, to really build a value realization, really a success plan that actually is valuable. It actually tracks exactly how you're going to reach value realization from your investment. Now, that's a bit of a holy grail across the software industry in general, but this is something that we feel we've actually cracked the nut on, and it's something that we feel as we get more and more traction with our customer base, we're going to be able to bring much more to bear in terms of detailed statistics on that actual value realization. I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through. But ultimately, what we have is this wrapper that is co-termed with a software subscription, and that allows us to throw everything that we have at it. And fundamentally, it's predicated on a set of outcomes. So underpinning it is this very detailed success catalog. And look, that's not rocket science in itself. There's lots and lots of SaaS businesses that put out a subscription-based service construct and a success catalog of sorts that has a series of packaged services within them. That's not abnormal. But I think where we feel we're differentiating is we're driving not a set of packaged services, but we're talking in simple terms as what is the outcome you're looking to achieve? Do you need to reduce cost in a particular construct? Do you need to drive up productivity of your teams in a particular way? What is the outcome as the CFO that you're trying to get to?
Your outcomes are business outcomes, not systems.
Correct.
Project outcomes.
Correct.
Great.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're business-focused initiatives that a CFO might want to undertake. Correct. And you've got to remember, our customer base is typically mid-sized enterprises. So they're not large enterprises with big IT organizations that can take on these sort of big integration projects. We're typically dealing with customers that are small to medium-sized municipalities or small government departments or architecture consultancies, legal consultancies, that sort of thing. And they tend to be mid-size in terms of their scale. We do have large customers, of course, but the vast majority are mid-sized. So they don't have a lot of time, energy, and resource to be able to really think this stuff through. And what they want to be able to say is, yeah, that feels like me, that set of objectives, that set of outcomes. Now, what do I need to do to get there? Just take me on a journey. So this is really what we've tried to do, is completely simplify that construct. So the outcomes are essentially different to an output. And there's some definitions on screen in terms of what we consider to be an output versus an outcome. And you see some specific examples there in terms of, say, for example, an output being, hey, we automated some stuff that was manual. Well, you'd expect to do that because it's an enterprise resource planning platform. But the better outcome is, and this is what we want to measure in specific terms, is I improved the efficiency of my organization by being able to reduce some cost and increase satisfaction of my employees using this platform. And the level of metric helps us to turn the value realization away from a nice concept into something that is a true metric that can be taken to your stakeholders to have that discussion as to why this was a good investment. So these are the concepts that we're building into this platform. We're starting to get some really great results with early adopters from our customer base, and we're looking to see that accelerate materially over the next couple of months. So what is an outcome versus a packaged service? So if you think about outcomes, that's what we want to achieve. We have bundled a series of services which combine different things. So they'll combine education components. They'll combine ordinarily what would be professional services components. They combine governance methods and methodologies, deliverables, etc., into a single work product, which we package up, and then we apply levels of automation to as well, so that we can accelerate. So the whole point is that it does what it says in the tin. Now, there's not one gargantuan package service for everything. That's not practical for our customers. So what we've done is we've broken our work processes down into bite-sized chunks where you might have an onboarding package, but to do the onboarding in a cloud migration, for example, we might have had to decustomize some stuff that is not going to be cloud ready. In which case, there are small packages that allow us to do that work as preparatory work. And the idea is that from a customer success management perspective, we sit down, we lay out the journey map, and we determine which packages to use. And because the customer has the subscription wrapper, they just draw down on points to chew down those packages and get the work done. And they're done in short, bite-sized chunks. So the most extensive package we have runs for 3 months. And that's typically an onboarding package to our pure play SaaS platform for ERP. So the package services underpin the outcomes. The outcomes drive which package services we bundle together in interesting ways to deliver the end outcome that the customer is looking for. And
Sean, what are you finding? Are most people moving as is? Or are they doing greenfield, which is like, hey, I'm moving to a new platform. Let me also rethink some processes. And what are you finding?
Now, that's a great question, because I think the intent usually is, I'm moving to a new platform, I should rethink my business. The reality is, I don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
And so you see a lot of push from the marketplace to redo stuff they've been doing for 20 years just because, as opposed to accepting the potential benefit that a modern automation platform can drive in terms of effectiveness, efficiency, and actual process automation. So again, part of the package services we've structured are really cost-efficient organizational change management packages to assist with that process. So hey, you don't have the time, that's okay, we'll take that off you. Let's help you with that process. And so we're finding real traction and real interest from our customers in that particular piece, because particularly when you look at in the ERP industry generally, when you look at why you get red projects, what are the things that go wrong? Often it'll be, well, the product doesn't fit, is the initial statement. But when you really scratch and you dig down to root cause, it's not typically the software. That obviously, software has its bugs and glitches, and that can be challenging at times, but it's generally short term. It's not generally project governance. That can happen, but again, it's getting more and more rare. Where it typically falls down is organizational change. We forgot this whole bunch of constituents that we should have considered. Oh dear. We didn't have the time to restructure our processes, so we try to force them into the new ERP and recreate the ERP we had from 20 years ago, et cetera, right? So that piece is the piece that we've sort of doubled down on to make sure that we've got packages in the service catalog that can assist with that, because we see our customers, particularly in the mid-size enterprise, really struggle with that. So from here, we can group these packages together. And the interesting thing is, people say, oh, but you're always going to need to write a statement of work. We've killed the concept of the statement of work. If you're on our subscription, no longer exists. The service descriptions are in the web. You're able to understand exactly what each package will give you. You're able to understand through our online catalog exactly what the outcome is going to drive for you, and the sort of metrics that we'd be looking to get from that outcome. What we are able to do, though, is combine these packages, because they are in bite-sized chunks, in different ways, putting the building blocks together in different ways. That allows you to get quite a bespoke outcome, but it's predicated on things that are done in an absolutely standardized way, because that allows us to apply automation to those standardized activities on a consistent basis. And if we can do that, we can accelerate and we can deliver time to value much quicker. So that's allowed us to get an 18-month ERP onboarding down to currently 4 months is the average, 4.5 months is the average that we're taking right now. And we're looking to continue to streamline that down to 3 months. So my sort of big, hairy, aggressive goal that I've set for the team is, in 90 days, you're up and running, not just with a minimum viable product, you're actually up and running with something that adds value. And that's what we continue to strive towards. So we have 2 subscription constructs within what we call Success4U. When you acquire our software as a subscription, automatically you're an Essentials customer. So it's just included. So you get a digital touch success plan, which is based on data that we're gathering on outcomes, and based on the industry vertical that the customer is in, we're going back to them and saying, hey, your peers are doing these things. This is your digital success plan. If you tick these boxes, you're doing what a lot of your industry peers are doing. If you'd like to know more, let's talk. But they're also getting a baseline level of digital support. They've got access to a very vibrant community. And we're building in-product guidance for them as well, which is going to help them to be very self-sufficient. And this is fine for an organization that's got, an ex-Unit4 employee in their sysadmin team that is really au fait with the platform and can help them to do a lot of things.
Are you getting, so where does, maybe you're going to come to it, but where do you talk to them about moving from on-prem data centers to the Azure cloud? Is that something you help them with?
I'm definitely going to touch on that. I just wanted to give you the sort of the background to this, but I'll come to that in a flat second. Yeah, great question. For those organizations that feel that they need something much more robust, or this is a mission critical platform for them, we generally recommend our professional subscription. So it's a co-term subscription with the software subscription. It gives them a high-touch customer success manager and planning and metrics wrapped around them. They get an elevated level of support. They get enhanced access to the community. We give them premium education access, and they have a series of success points included in the subscription, which allows them to draw down on the success catalog. Now, Essentials customers can absolutely use the packages out of the success catalog as well. It's just that that's done on a fee-based construct, so more like a traditional statement of work, except it's a lot more streamlined and robust and easier to contract. So where are we from a cloud migration perspective? This is what you were keen to understand. So cloud migration is not actually new to what we're doing. This, we made a big announcement at the back end of last year in October. But bear in mind, we've been doing cloud migrations over the last 4 years, actually. So 22% of our total install base today is already migrated to the cloud.
What's the other number, 87%? How's that different?
So that is our current engagements since we made the announcement. So I'll come back to that sec. So previous to this year, 22% of our install base had already migrated. So this is not a new motion for us. We've done it a few times, around 1,000, in fact. So since our announcement in October, we have spent time with 87% of our customer base, which is actually, when you look at the industry in general, pretty remarkable. We'd like that to be 100%, and by the end of this year, it will absolutely be 100%.
But not all of them have committed. Not all of them have committed. You've had some initial.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely. So what we've said to our customers is, by the end of this fiscal year, by the end of 2024, calendar year, I beg your pardon, we need to have had a conversation and struck a commercial agreement for your migration. You don't have to have migrated by December 31st, 2024, but we need to agree on when that's going to take place. And you have another 2 years through to the end of December 26 to effect the migration. The first thing we have to do is just get a cloud migration assessment underway. We do that, it's automated, it's free, it's on us, and it gives us a very clear view as to the reality of how we would help this customer to migrate. Now, there are some environments that, have longer budgeting cycles, universities, for example. There are environments that are in highly secure data centers because data sovereignty is really important to them. They might be secure agencies and governments, that sort of thing. And we work with those customers individually to figure out a specific construct for them. But for the vast majority of our customers, by the end of this year, we'll have spoken to all of them. We'll have struck a commercial agreement for their move to the cloud or not. We're expecting a reasonably material churn rate based on the discussion. It's not eventuated. We're actually seeing far less churn than we expected. And there's a genuine willingness in the marketplace to go to the cloud. People are saying, I want to do it. It makes total sense. It's actually a strategy for us, but we've just got to be sensitive as to when we can do it and how we will do it. And that's really the big part of the discussion.
John, the ones that churn, is there a pattern? I mean, in this, cloud's been around since 97, right? NetSuite was born in 97.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years later, it's mind-boggling that some customers think they can push it off another God knows how long. What do you see?
That's a really good point, Vinnie. And I think where we see churn, it's typically because there's a parent entity who said, well, actually, our standard platform is X. We want you to come to X where you're on Unit4 right now. Or it's a case of, hey, it's an opportunity for me to go to the market. I'm going to go to the market. And I've gone to the market and I found something that's probably a little bit more suitable for our needs. And we're going to shift in that direction. Can you support me for a period of time while I do that shift? But as I say, we're expecting, another few percentile points on our churn rate. We are, in terms of churn, we're above 90% gross revenue retention. I can't give the exact statistic as I'm unable to. Not that I don't know it, I know it off by heart, but I'm not able to share it in a broader forum. But we're certainly in what would be considered best-in-class range for gross revenue retention. The churn that we expected to see would have brought us 290 on the nose. We're seeing less. So I think we're in good shape there. And the reason we're in good shape is because since the beginning of 2024, we've conducted 900 cloud migration assessments. And what that tells us is, what have you done to your platform? The key with our on-premise platform is it was highly customizable, which can be very useful, but in a cloud migration context creates a challenge. So the cloud migration assessments have been super useful in helping us to understand what customers have actually done. And what we're finding is there's a staggering amount of customization that was built because they were on much older versions of the platform. And a lot of that customization is now out-of-box capability in the modern platform. So there's just no need for it any longer. So that's been a very, very useful data point. We've got another, we're running several hundred of these a month. We've got another 6 months to go before we complete all of our cloud migration assessments and then figure out the journeys for all of those customers. We've got today about 175 active migrations running at any given time. We've got capacity for about 300 plus. And on the current trend, we should finish off all of the cohorts of customers we're looking at across this year and the following 2 years, which is what we've set aside for this migration process. So we have a number of customers who are going to kick off in the new year, a number of customers that will kick off at the beginning of 2026. But ultimately, all the way through December 31st, 27 is kind of the range that we've given to execute these migrations. And so good.
John, how much have you automated? I'm seeing in the SAP world early signs of, there are data conversion tools, there are report conversion tools, customized code conversion tools, testing automation tools. So I've been screaming for this for years, finally starting to see some movement where labor-intensive portions are starting to get automated. Have you applied a lot of automation in your process?
Not as much as I'd like, Vinnie, and my frustration is exactly the same as yours. We are starting to automate more and more. I would love to get this to kind of a wizard, right? Literally. Next, finish. But I mean, I think
it's certainly a factory concept, right? Where you have
exactly
data conversion. Take the data, have something which got
exactly right.
Moves, right? Yep.
Exactly right. Now, what we have put in place is the factory concept. So the cloud migration team is a dedicated team, and it's a production line. And where I'm glad you mentioned data conversion. That is one area where we have created automation. And that's accelerating data management extensively. We're looking at automation around converting customizations into our new abstraction layer, which essentially takes the the customizations in the on-premise products was basically in the core code or against the database. And in a cloud context, that's just not really viable any longer.
Yeah.
So we're looking to extract those out, put them into the abstraction layer that's been created. That is a manual activity right now, albeit that it's done in a production line construct. So we've built a lot of efficiency around that just through repetition. But ultimately, we'd like to get a lot of that automated.
You're 80% of the way to taking that abstraction and using AI to create parameters in your system.
Correct, exactly. And you know, the good thing about our platform is we've built hooks into it 6 years ago, preparing for AI. So it's not like we're having to re-architect everything from an AI context. It's actually already there, and now it's about accelerating how we leverage AI to drive automation, drive efficiency. And that's not only automation of workflow, but automation of data management, automation of system management, and so on. So that's something that is very hot on our R&D topic at the moment. But to your point, I think it's something that the industry has been a laggard on, and I think finally we're starting to get traction around just making it easier for our customers. You know, ultimately, we should not try to prevent churn on the basis of it's hard to get off our platform. We should prevent churn on the basis of you love our platform and it's doing amazing things for you. And why would you go anywhere else? And it's cost efficient.
Yeah.
You know, and it's delivering value. So that's really the big, hairy, aggressive goal that we're continuing to push for.
John, we're brothers in arms. We've been fighting this battle for a while.
Well, it feels like a crusade at times, but it's, you know, it's an important one, I think, you know, and I think particularly from a SaaS perspective, I think the practical reality is we will get to a point where you will be able to onboard and offboard in a SaaS context for ERP for 3 to 4 months. It will happen. It's coming quickly, irrespective of whichever brand name you insert.
Well, you know, especially when you look at the hyperscalers, the developer productivity they're generating through Gen AI tools, right?
Huge.
There's no real, I mean, I scream at integrators. I go, you know, if you look at your databases, you've done 20,000 ERP projects.
Yeah.
Get your freaking desk plans. Come up with a first level plan for any new customer. Train your machines to be able to do that. I mean,
yeah,
it's not rocket science, right? So,
correct. And you know, the old days of going through kind of this waterfall approach of let's do a design workshop, then let's do a complete solution design specification, and then get that signed off, and then we'll go build it, and then you'll do some UAT. We can no longer operate that way. So to that end, we're completely reinventing onboarding. It's much more about a linear flow of engagement with a lot of stuff happening in the background. In fact, the first time you see the system is not in a design workshop. We're killing those. They shouldn't exist. You're seeing a fully configured system with your data in it.
You know, it's easier for a software vendor to think like you're saying. The integrators are scared to death that if they codify their IP, customers won't pay for it. It's like, try. If you don't do it, so do it. It'll get commoditized.
You're exactly right, Vinnie. And I candidly, before we put Success4U into place, we got some of the same pushback from our own services teams, you know, whether they were the premium support teams or the education teams or the professional services teams. The practical reality is what everyone's discovered is actually the quicker we can add value, the more the customer spends. Because they're now freed up to do more, to digitize more, to expand how they're operating as a business more and more effectively and efficiently. And if you were able to get them to quick value at the beginning, you become a trusted advisor, you become a partner in their journey, not a vendor. And I think far too often from a system integration perspective, whether it's software PS organizations or whether it's SIs out in the field, there's this concept of you know, it's T&M, bums on seats, and we have to perpetuate that model. And I truly think that model is threatened with extinction. And the reality is that you've got to adjust to the new reality. And I see that some of the SIs that we're working with in our space we've got some great partners, are absolutely cottoning onto that. And what they're looking to do now is, what is the value we can add? Can we help with cultural change? Can we help with process change? Can we assist with premium education that's tailored to you to help you to really adjust to this platform? And can we do it in a just-in-time and rapid basis? And I think we will slowly but surely see a move in that direction. The smart integrators will get on top of that very quickly. The laggards will have to catch up because they will be priced out of the market as a consequence.
Jean, we can only hope.
Fingers crossed, Vinnie.
Like you say,
from a migration process,
it's a crusade.
Exactly. Sorry, I cut over you there. Hey, from a cloud migration process perspective, this is really how the workflow operates in simple terms. So we do the cloud migration assessment, that is fully automated. We get from that a clear view of, hey, there's some stuff you've done which actually is cloud compliant, and we're happy to move it. There's some stuff you've done, it's probably a bigger set of things, which is, direct links into a database, or it's, very detailed changes inside of the core code, which can't be supported in a unilateral code base. So ultimately, what do we need to do to get you cloud ready? So within the Success4U catalog, we have a series of adjustment packages. These are short, sharp bursts of work to take away stored procedures in SQL, for example, and take some of the customizations, push them into the abstraction layer. The more of that we can automate, the quicker we can get it done, the more effectively we can get it done. And then we go into the actual migration activity itself, which is actually pretty short. They're running in elapsed time, sort of 5-10 days, really depending on the level of data migration we have to do. And then ultimately that triggers then the success plan that says, all right, now that you've got this new capability at your disposal, much more than you had on premise, how do we get you adopting and using it so that we can get some value out of it? All of that is essentially packages tied to outcomes within the success catalog that helps our cloud migration customers to get some real value from that move. Aside from all of the benefits of being in the cloud from a security perspective and all the other good things that it brings to bear. But that in a nutshell is kind of what we're doing. It's how Success4U wraps around cloud migration, but it's also how Success4U wraps around onboarding new customers to the platform and helping them to be very successful as they move through their kind of adoption and expansion perspective, so that we can earn the right to get their renewal. And we see it as an earned right. It's not automatic, not at all anymore. And that's something that we work pretty hard at right now.
So new customers, since their database, everything is slightly different. Is it more, can you do that in 4 months, or is that also a...
Yeah, so we're working on data conversion capability that allows us to essentially, so if I paint pictures with words, where we're taking this is, welcome to the family. Before we start, here is a bunch of stuff we'd like you to do in terms of just educating yourselves on our platform. It's all available through our Community4U platform. Get onto that, and we're going to reconnect in 4 weeks to really just talk about what you're going to look like on our platform. But first, get educated. Understand what it is you've got at your disposal. At the same time, let's start laying out the beginnings of that success plan. Oh, and by the way, we need a whole bunch of data from you. This is how we're going to extract it. This is what it needs to look like to be reasonably clean. And then we get back together, and the first discussion is not what do you want, which is the normal trope, or let's do a design workshop. Here is what you look like in our platform. And we could click go and you're live. This is a production ready platform. But there's probably some stuff we've got to tweak. And we're working on the 80-20 rule. Your peers look like this. We've got accelerators, we call them the industry models, which will pre-configure effectively your chart of accounts and bits of your HR and project accounting and all that sort of goodness. So we've applied the model, we've taken your data, inserted it into the model, and you're ready to roll. So that the workshop becomes much more about building on the education you've already done to take you through in a structured way what you've got at your disposal. Now, there might be some reporting you want to tweak. There might be some aspects of the way the general ledger operates that you might want to tweak. That's fine. We can sprint that over two or three sprints. And then as we've done those tweaks, let's start your testing. And by the way, we don't want you to go and figure out how to do user acceptance testing on our software. Here are your scripts, follow these. And we've already done a lot of the testing on your behalf. We've automated a lot of testing already in terms of smoke testing and all the other things that we're doing. Get this right, do the UAT, let's make sure this is the right platform for you. And then we go live. There's a level of hypercare wrapped around you at the point you're live. And at that point, we're starting to transition you into not let's close the project. It's more a case of what's next? What is the next step in your success plan? And let's trigger in a quarter the package service that will deliver that outcome. So that's really the concept. That's why Success4U wraps around completely. And the idea is you don't want the customer going back to the well every time they want to do something on the platform to adopt it and grow on the platform. You don't want them to have to go and sign a statement of work, which necessitates legal. You don't want them to have to go back and ask for extra budget. It's baked into the subscription. So that's the fundamental principle behind it.
Excellent. Thank you. Makes sense.
I'm glad to hear that. You're most welcome. Anything else I can answer for you, Vinnie?
I'm probably I'll ping you after I review the thing, but no, it very very logical, structured, but you're de-risking so many aspects of a project. So I like that particularly.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And we looked at all of our red projects over the years and what was the common trend in what drove the projects red, and all of those things where we could see common trends, we've basically broken up and incorporated them into this process. So it's been a really interesting journey. And what's really interesting is it's a bit of a new concept for a lot of our customers, particularly procurement teams, right? Wait, where's the statement of work? And so it's been interesting getting their heads around it at the beginning, but we're now starting to see just this massive hockey stick in interest from the marketplace, and people are starting to really open their arms to this construct because it is a lot easier.
Excellent.